understand the concept of love.
Hello everyone, Carfor here. Been a little while. Welcome to another video about the Clown Fiesta that is global server. I've recorded videos for Luong, I've recorded videos for Mary, I've recorded videos for Gato, I've recorded videos for Benimaru. Apparently none of those are important, so instead we're going to skip about 10-11 bosses ahead, not even counting collaborations, and do Angel, because, you know, welcome to global, this is how we work, this is the world we live in now. Anyway, so as you can expect, Angel as a character that is coming probably close to somewhere around 8 to 10 months early when compared to Taiwan. She is pretty much a beast. She's going to have a long lifespan because even in China she's still run as one of the top DPSs now. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? So Angel, DPS, aptitude 15. She's a turtle soul and a snake soul. Gets a little extra rage when attacking. Her fates are kind of expensive. They all have 15s in them. You might be able to get some of them if you want. I personally don't go for fates from the VIP packs now, but yeah. More importantly, her gate partners are cheap, which is great. She's not one of those that has 3 15s in there. And now let's get started with her passive. So it increases her own damage rate. The number you see there at the bottom of 20%, that's wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 60% at her base skill, 70% with Lake, which is what we're looking at. I think that's just because Chachito has these placeholders and he put it there, and because nobody was expecting Angel, he never got to change it. Increases her own damage rate. She increases her own crit rate, anti-crit, ult damage and res by 45%. And during the first round, after being deployed, she has damage limitation of 40% HP, which already makes her pretty tanky, pretty good survivability. When attacked, gain 1 stack of reform potential. Now, from here on out, I'm going to call this potential because the in-game translation is something like enhanced potential, and we have reform potential, and I think reform is more similar to what they have in Taiwan, but so instead of that, I'm just going to say potential so we all know what I mean, right? Gain 1 stack of potential. When damage taken exceeds 35% of your max HP, or if your HP is lower than 50%, you will immediately recover 35% of your max HP. Can activate up to 3 times per round, and every time it does, gain 2 stacks of reform potential, increase your ult res by 40%, and your small skill res by 30%. So as you can see, just from that very first paragraph, she has a lot of survivability for a DPS, right? That's really good. Moving on, every stack of potential increases your ult res by 3%, can have a maximum of 10 stacks at the same time, so that's 30% maximum ult res if you have them all. When you reach max stacks, you immediately get 80% control free for yourself and a random ally around you. When she takes fatal damage, she triggers High Density Reform. High Density Reform is just the name of her dying. Won't die, immediately dispel all your negative effects, recover 16% max HP, 600 rage, and for every stack of potential you will get an additional 8% HP and 80 rage. You also increase your own damage and res by 30% for 1 round, and you can do this 3 times per battle or 1 time in 1v1. Pretty standard. When your own round starts, recover 60 rage. For every potential stack, you get an additional 15 rage, and you recover that same amount to the ally in the same column. And if you're at max stacks and reach full rage, you dispel all your negative effects. Every time you get a stack of potential, you permanently increase your attack by 1.5%. So overall, this passive is great. It gives her quite a bit of damage, it gives her quite a lot of survivability, and it has some little utility, you know, by feeding rage to whoever's in the same column and giving some control free to people around you. Nothing crazy, but in terms of survivability and damage, it does give a shit ton. So that's a pretty great start to the character. So moving on to the skill, attack a single enemy, increase 8% damage rate and res rate for yourself and the ally in your same column. This can be stacked with other buffs of the same type, and it lasts for 2 rounds. 80% chance to taunt the target for 1 round. If you've forgotten what taunt is, because we haven't seen it in a little while, it's what Extreme Mr. Karate, Original Elizabeth, Magaki do, where you can't use your skill or your ult, and you will attack the target who taunted you. Reduces the target's small skill chance by 30% for 2 rounds. It can be stacked, can't be dispelled. This is pretty nice, because Rob, who's probably the best tank to come yet, in terms of just all-around tank, also reduces small skill chance with his ult. So with this and her skill, you can end up making someone basically go -% on the skill chance, so that's pretty great. She recovers 20% max HP and 300 rage. That's pretty big deal for a skill. She removes the negative states of an ally priority to an ally under control. That's amazing. Most characters have this in their ult. She has it in her skill. If the target has lower than 70% HP, increase the skill damage by 25%. If the target has more than 30% HP, absorb 15% of the target's max HP. Gain 2 stacks of perform potential, and if the skill does less than 40% max damage of the enemy, the next skill will do double damage. You can't double damage an already double damage skill, obviously. This is crazy, right? It has so much utility for a skill. It does all that you want. It's kind of like old Ignis skill, right? Where it has this: if you're lower than 70%, if you're higher than 30%. So anytime he's between 69 and 31% HP, you're gonna be absorbing 15% HP of the max target and increasing the skill by 25%. That's gonna do a lot of damage. Plus, you can double the damage. It gives you stacks. It's really nice. And it has a little bit of utility for that in the same column, so pretty great. And finally, the piece de resistance, her Smax, which is probably longer than her skill and lake put together, skill and passive put together, which is kind of crazy. So, attacks a single enemy with the lowest HP. Keep that with the lowest HP part in mind, because that's going to be important in a little bit. And if it hits an enemy in the front row, it does 120% additional damage. Dispels the target's buffs. It gains attack force. Attack force is a buff that several characters have, but one thing I don't like that China has done, and that you're going to find pretty often in the near future, is that buffs and debuffs, the new ones, don't always have the same effects. So keep that in mind, because you might see attack force and expect it's the same as Angel's. For example, Angel gains 30% damage and ult damage, right? But another character might get another different buff. Yuri, for example, has a buff called Dullness, as does Rob, as does Mai, a debuff. But all 3 of them give different stat debuffs, even though it's called the same. So keep an eye on that, so you can figure out the kits a little bit better. Increases your damage rate and ult damage by 30%, can't be dispelled. Increase own attack and defense by 40%, and pierce rate by 50%, plus crit power by 20%. So basically, she needs to increase every stat. She absorbs 40% of the target's res rate, ignoring control free. She reduces the main target's defense by 40%, and if the main target has 1.2 times more defense than she does, this effect is doubled. So that's kind of crazy. Deals additional damage equal to 20% of the target's max HP. Reduces the main target's rage recovery speed by 30%. You might be thinking, why main target when it's single target ult? You'll see in a minute. By 30% for 1 round, ignores control free, cannot be dispelled. If the main target's current HP is lower than 70%, you do damage equal to 250% of her attack. If it's higher than 30%, restore 30% of your own max HP, similar to a skill basically. Deal additional splash damage equal to 75% of total damage plus 75% of overflow damage to another random enemy. So yeah, that's why main target, and that's why I told you to keep in mind that lowest HP part, because it's going to deal 75% of the total damage of the skill plus 75% of the damage that goes over however much HP they have left. So this is kind of like Terry to a single target, but on steroids, because she does crazy damage, like Terry 2K, old Terry, where he used to do splash damage with the overflow damage from the character's leftover HP. So this is kind of similar to that, but it's going to be crazier. It's only to one target, but that one target is going to trigger Undying or die nearly certainly if you have her properly trained. She consumes all of her potential to add internal injury to the target. At the start of our turn, every 2 rounds, cause damage equal to 200% of her own attack, increased by 40% for each stack of potential she consumes. So if you have 10, which isn't going to be rare by the way, that's an extra 400. So you're doing 600% of her own attack. So if we think about characters in Global now, where there's people that have 600 and 700k attack damage, that's a 4.2 million damage over time effect, which is, you know, kind of bullshit. Yeah, so won't restore rage, can't be dispelled, and ignores control free. For each stack of potential consumed, she increases her own ult res by 5% for 1 round. She must release small skill the turn she uses the ult. If the ult uses no less than 7 stacks of reform potential, so basically nearly every round after round 2 I should think, then she will recover rage to max once per round, which basically means 2 ults quite often. If this ult uses less than 7 stacks of reform potential, then for the round after, she will gain 1 extra stack of potential for every time she gains a stack. So if you gain 2, she'll gain 3 instead. If you gain 1, she'll gain 2, etc. After the first ult, when she has 10 stacks of potential, she becomes immune to rage reduction. And during the battle, for every 25 potential she consumes, she increases her high density reform by 1 with no limits. High density reform, if you remember, is her Undying. So the longer the match goes, she can keep increasing her Undyings. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah, so Angel. It's crazy that they brought this character out at this point in time. She is gonna make people suffer. It's basically like Nightmare Geese, but even worse. Nightmare Geese was only like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months early, depending on which region you compared him to. She's gonna be almost 10 months early compared to some regions, and that's just kind of insane, really. She's an easy A rank, she really is, because not only is she a strong DPS and has strong survivability, but you have to understand that right now at this point in time, she's still a top tier DPS in China, and China is at what, Yori Yamazaki era. We still have like 12, 13, 14 bosses until we reach that, so even if they release them all now, she'd still be top tier during their era. So she's got a lot of value because she's going to last a long time, even with our completely fucked up release schedule. Yeah, she's a beast. She's a beast. Get her if you can. If you can't get her, I really do feel sorry for you, because they really fucked people over by releasing Chris, then Greenitz, then Angel. It's like insane. It really is insane. Been talking about it in the Discord over the last few days, and people are really suffering over who do I replace. Like, do I take Chris out? I just got Goenitz, so I take Goenitz out. What do? I don't have space for her. I wasn't expecting her now. It's honestly, it's absolute bullshit that she comes now, but that's global, baby, right? That's how we live. That's the world we live in now. In terms of runes, she can use any of the offensive ones, you know, just give her the ones that suit her, the round she's going to hold for you. Whether it's killing wolves, dragon tiger or gods, you know, dragon tiger gods for round 2, killing a wolves for round 1. However, I will say, and this is my own opinion, this is basically my gut feeling, is even if you have her ult in round 1, I feel that the best runes for her are dragon tiger, because of the same reasons that Perry 2K was best suited with Dragon Tiger. She always attacks lowest HP, so she's going to be making a lot of good usage of the Dragon Tiger extra damage to low HP characters. and that will transform into more damage for the additional splash damage she's gonna do, right? So it's like a perfect synergy. Even if she doesn't if she ults round 1 and ult 2 and round 1 you're gonna do less damage with her ults, but when she hits that the ult that counts, basically when she has stacks and all that, because round 1, if you have priority, she's not gonna have any stacks, you're gonna do a lot more damage, which is gonna result in a lot more overflow. So personally, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run Dragon Tiger on her, despite the fact that she's probably gonna ult round 1 for me. In terms of chips, I'd put probably Python on her. Python are the ones that give 30% damage and res, I think. And I think it just fits her kit perfectly. I don't think she needs the HP drain from Scorpion. And she has a single target ult, well, 2 targets if you count the splash, but it's going to be harder for her to make use of that mark that Scorpion gives. So for me, she's pretty easily Python. And in terms of Fight Soul, again, you can use any offensive Fight Soul on her. Personally, I think probably Storm, that's what I'm going to test on her to start with, will be best for her if it works well with this extra ult with her, because sometimes it work wonky. So I have to see. If not, then you have Wolf, Unyielding, War God. War God might be good because her crit, she only has 1 crit increase and 1 pierce increase. They're pretty hefty, but she's not like some other characters now that have like 130 crit out there or stuff like that. So ideally though, I think you're better off with something like Storm, War God, or sorry, Storm, Unyielding, or Wolf. Wolf might be good for her because it synergizes really well with her already absorbing res and her increases in damage and such, so keep that in mind. But I think it requires a little bit of testing. To be honest, I'm still not 100% sure because, like I said before, she's not run a lot in China and Taiwan. She doesn't have Smax in Taiwan yet, so they won't run her for a bit. And in China, she was a cash-only character. She cost $200. That was the only way to get her, so not that many people got her, basically. But for me, I probably think that something like Storm, Unyielding, or Wolf will probably be the best fit. Wargood might fit her well, but I'd have to test because I don't really know. Yeah. So, in closing, a lot of people are going to complain because they're going to skip her, I think. And they'll be complaining because I think she's going to have a really big impact on global meta. I think she's really strong, really strong. I think she's even stronger because she's coming 8 months early and we don't have any of the beast tanks that they have in China, right? There's no Liz for shields, there's no Rob, who's an absolute monster. There's nothing like that. There's no Yamazaki who can fucking kill people with septic damage. There's nothing like that around. So it's a little bit worrying about how big her impact it's gonna be. Actually, I think she might take over. I don't know if she's gonna be the same as Nightmare Geese was in his day, who was an absolute fucking arsehole, and I loved him. But I would not be surprised if she was. Ideally, you want her to ult last in your order. Keep that in mind because she targets lowest HP. So if you were to have a backline of something like, I don't know, say Goenitz or Chris plus Shermie plus Angel, right? You want the other two to go first, so hopefully they can do some damage to that backline. So she can go for a low HP DPS and then overflow that damage she does to someone else, whether it's another backliner or a frontliner, and fuck them up. Yeah, so if you can afford it, just get this character. It's absolutely stupid. Keep in mind, I think Global might be going absolutely ballistic over the next few months. If you can get her now, I'd recommend getting her now, not getting her next month, because May is going to be Ignis, pretty much guaranteed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they drop another bomb next month. And if you don't get Angel now, then next month you're gonna be being like, oh fuck, how do I get Angel in her redraw and this new character plus this weapon plus blah 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 blah. So keep that in mind. Okay, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Get Angel. If you don't get Angel, good luck. Okay, so quick recap. Angel, API 15, DPS, Turtle, Snake Soul, Gale Badge, Kickboxing Tone. Baits, a little bit expensive. Gates, cheap. Her passive increases her own damage rate, crit rate, anti-crit, ult damage, res rate. For the first round, she has damage limitation of 40%. When she's attacked, she gains 1 stack of potential. When the damage she takes exceeds 35% or she has less than 50% HP, she heals herself for 35% HP. She can do this 3 times per round, and every time she does, she also gains 2 stacks of reform of ult potential. And she increases her own ult res by 40% and small skill res by 30%. For every stack of potential she gets, she increases her ult res up to 30%, because she can have 10 stacks max. When she gets max stacks, she gets 80% control free for herself and someone else. When she would have died, she doesn't. She triggers high density reform. That's the name of her undying. She will dispel all her negative effects, recover 60% max HP and 600 rage. For every stack she has of potential, she'll recover an additional 8% HP and 80 rage. She increases her own damage and res by 30% for 1 round. She can do this 3 times per battle, once in 1v1s. Okay, when her own round starts, she recovers 60 rage. She gets an extra 15 for every stack of potential, and she gives that same amount to the ally in the same column. She has max stacks. She will dispel her negative attacks, and every time she gets a stack of potential, she gains 1.5% attack permanently for the match. Skill attacks a single enemy, increases 8% damage and res for herself and someone in the same column. She has 80% chance to taunt the target for 1 round. Taunt, if you've forgotten, is what Extreme Mr. Karate, Magaki, Old Elizabeth do, where the enemy has to attack her and they can't do ult or skill. She reduces the target's small skill chance for 2 rounds. Can be stacked, can't be dispelled. She recovers 20% max HP, 300 rage. She removes negative status from an ally, priority control an ally under control. If the target has less than 70% HP, she does 25% more damage. If it has more than 30% HP, absorbs 50% of the target's max damage, and she gains 2 stacks of potential. If the damage caused by the skill is less than 40% of the target's max HP, she will do double damage on the next skill. You can't double damage an already double damage skill. Her S-Max attacks a single enemy with the lowest HP. If it hits an enemy in the front row, it does 100%. It does extra damage. It dispels the target's buffs. It gives the attack force buff. Increases her own damage. Her ult, it can't be dispelled. Her ult damage, it can't be dispelled. Increase her own attack and defense. Increases her own pierce. Increases her own crit power. She absorbs 40% of the target's res, ignoring control free. She reduces the defense by 40%. If the target has more than 1.2 times the defense that Angel has, it doubles that effect. Deals damage additional equal to 20% of the target's max HP. Reduces the main target's rage recovery speed for 1 round. Ignores control free. Can't be dispelled. If the main target current HP is lower than 70%, you deal extra damage equal to a percentage of your attack. If it's higher than 30%, you heal 30% of your HP. You do splash damage equal to 75% of the total damage this ult does, plus 75% of the overflow damage it does to another random enemy. Consume all your potential stacks to add internal injury, which is a dot. At the start of our turn, every 2 rounds, does damage equal to 200% of her own attack, plus 40% for each stack of potential that she consumed. Doesn't restore rage, can't be dispelled, ignores control free. Each stack of potential she consumes gives her 5% ult res for 1 round. She must release small skill on the same round on the same turn that she uses this ult. If she uses at least 7 stacks, she will recover max rage and ult again. If the ult uses less than 7 stacks, then for 1 round she will get an extra stack every time she gains potential stacks. So if she were to gain 1, she'd get 2. If she were to get 2, she'd get 3, etc. And when she has, after the first ult, when she has 10, she becomes immune to rage reduction. And during the battle, for every 25 potential stacks she consumes, she will gain an extra undying activation. She's an easy A rank. She came way too early. She's really strong. She does a lot of damage. She has a lot of survivability. She's top tier still at this point in China, and she will be top tier probably when she gets her Smax in Taiwan, which she still hasn't. We are likely to get it before her. In terms of runes, I think she will probably synergize the best with Dragon Tiger, even if you get her to round 1. I think she will do well with any offensive ones for round 1 or 2, but I think that Dragon Tiger might be the one that synergizes the best with her overall kit. In terms of chips, I think Python are the best for her. Scorpion just don't really fit her all that well, in my opinion. In terms of Fightsouls, War God, Undying, Wolf or Storm. I'm personally probably going to try Storm first because it synergizes really well, particularly with the skill damage and her dot. And I think if not, I think Unyielding or Wolf might be best. War God might be great, but needs testing because I don't know how well she's going to do in terms of crits. Yeah, get this character. If you don't get this character, you're likely going to suffer. If you can't afford to get this character, I feel sorry for you. We're probably going to get another top tier character next month, since we're likely going to get Ignis in May. I hope this has helped somebody, and if so, I'll see you next time. Have a good one, guys.